When I got back into town, I was surprised to hear that there was a debate about whether or not to play Drake May on Sunday. And then I thought it was just sports radio banter.
Yep.
But now guys that are covering the team are saying to deliberately lose on Sunday by not playing your best player. We thought about it, and Bert, we could come up with one time, I guess the Eagles, Peterson's last year, pulled Jalen Hurts early from a game in the last game of the season, and then Peterson ended up getting fired. So I can't.
That was the Eagles were tanking.
No, Eagles, right. Sorry,
yeah, the Eagles were tanking.
Eagles. What did I
say? I would say the Browns are like pretty blatantly tanking right now. They've done a quarterback.
Last game of the
how close you guys have followed that?
Last game of the season, though.
Yeah.
Last game of the season, you have a star rookie quarterback, and you deliberately don't play him to lose. That doesn't happen very often. There's teams that have tanked seasons, but I don't know a team
I would say what you will see is that's pretty common is like teams that are in this position treating the last game as like a preseason game almost, where they'll play their starters for a little bit, then they'll pull them. Now you can't do it to the degree you do it in the preseason because you don't have a 90-man roster. You know, like there's only so far you can go with it. Like even like the teams that are on the other end of the spectrum, like the Chiefs, like there's only a certain amount of guys that they can sit this week because you have to field a team and the numbers don't allow you to like sit everybody.
I'm talking about blatantly saying we're not playing Drake May, and I guess that they can't even do it. They have to.
Yeah, I guess it's like rare. I mean, it's more rare when a team already has the quarterback because when we've seen it before, it's like in order to get the quarterback.
Well, if it's between Peters, like if it's between two jabroni,
that's actually the best point because if you're trying to tank. You're trying to tank to get a quarterback, so you just roll out your starting quarterback, who obviously sucks, and you don't have to.
Or it's between, it's between Joe Flacco.
Takes care of itself naturally.
Or during DTR and Bailey Zappi,
right? Exactly,
which is what Cleveland is dealing with. They're going to start zapping.
But that's the thing is that who cares, right? Between those two guys, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I'm talking about you have a number one starting quarterback who's a kid, not like a 39-year-old guy that you're like. Screw it, I'm going to – like if the Jets didn't play Rodgers on Sunday or something, it would be controversial for a different reason. But it's like no one would go, oh, they're tanking. But just the idea that, we have a rookie quarterback who's a star, and we're going to sit him and pretend he has an injury, which I guess they can't even do now, but pretend he has an injury and not play him and because we deliberately want to lose. And it's interesting to me for a lot of reasons. Everyone wants this coach fired, so now you're telling them to deliberately lose. Well, you can't deliberately lose and then fire him.
Like you guys remember the Lovie Smith situation
a
couple years ago? When Houston was in position to get the number one overall pick, and Lovie knew he was getting fired.
Oh, so okay.
They were balls out at the end of the game.
Well, that worked.
They wound up.
They got C.J. Stroud.
And it was funny because then it was like in Chicago, they were like, build a statue of Lovie Smith because it got the Bears the first pick, which they wound up trading, and they get all his capital. They get DJ Moore, and they wind up with Caleb Williams.
Right, and now look at them now. They're basking in by far the last place in that division.
Yep.
But and look at all the good that they surrounded Caleb Williams did with them for them. But look, there was a good trade nonetheless, and it was good fortune.
Yeah.
But the thing is, obviously, you want the number one overall pick. Obviously, you would like to lose.
Think it's obvious that you want you should play Drake, is what you're saying.
I don't know how you can. I don't know how you could fire. Hang on one second. Yep. You can't fire Mayo if you don't play May, and you can't keep Mayo if you don't play May. There's like you said, there's starters that I don't know how you can face a locker room after that and go, oh, by the way, we are deliberately tanking, and then by the way, if you're the Crafts, hang on, if you're the Crafts. The Giants, if you think no one's going to care about you tanking for the last pick, I got news for you. Giant fans are going to kind of care. They're going to be interested in who has the number one overall pick. So it's going to be a big story that you screwed around and deliberately lost the game on the last game of the season. And so you're going to be the franchise that's screwing around, deliberately losing games by not playing your quarterback.
Well, Cleveland's already doing it.
But they don't have Drake May.
Right.
They don't have Bert, they're not doing it. They're charging between garbage A and garbage B. They're not saying.
Well, no, they sat down Jameis Winston, who's like a legitimate quarterback, versus
Jameis Winston's not the future of that organization.
Right.
There's a difference.
No, I know there's a difference. Yeah, there's absolutely a difference. Now, I would say what gives you. So I think your argument about the Mayo part of this is actually interesting because that part of it to me is okay. If he really is 50-50 right now to come back, you got to give the guy a chance to fight for his job. And if you're telling him to sit the quarterback down, well, that almost has to come with, don't worry about it, you're okay, right? Is that's the argument you're making?
Yeah, if you're going to fire him based on performance, you got to let him have a chance to perform.
To perform, right.
But also, if you're going to keep him, I don't know how you can go, hey, Gerard, you suck this year, go lose.
Right. I also think like there's the where you'd have cover for not playing him the full game is like when you start throwing
full game is different.
Right, if you start him and then he plays a couple series, like what would give you cover as far as like, no, we're not really tanking, we're just trying to get a look at everybody is, well, we started to put backup linemen in there. We didn't want to put him out there behind a bunch of backups.
If you take him out in the second half, that's different.
Backup.
Although
the entire offensive line is littered with backups.
Playing backups.
Okay,
well, hang on, just real quick. Here's the mental gymnastics that people are doing. Phil Perry was in here yesterday. He's like, well, you know what they could do is they could play Joe Milton and build some trade interest for Joe Milton. Huh? Joe Milton against the backups against Buffalo is going to change 5 years of scouting the kid? That's nonsense.
He said he's getting real reps this week. So
I don't doubt he'll come into the game, but the idea that he's going to build a resume in one half of football.
I think if you play him, the reason you play him is to try to figure out if he's good enough to be your backup next year.
And I
think that's why you would play him because Jacoby Brissett's contract's up, so you want to. All right, like let's see what we have. Is he good enough to be your backup?
Well, he's not.
And I think for Gerard, if he has anything that he still, thinks he needs to prove beyond what ownership might be telling him, you're safe, you're fine, don't worry about playing Drake May for the entire game, don't worry about winning. We do want you to focus on a few things, and he must know he needs to focus on a few things. I would say specifically defense. This was supposed to be what he was good at already, and if there's anything that they need to prove in this game, it's not going to be on offense. We know that it's a lost cause. What are you going to be able to
show with like Buffalo treating the game like Buffalo?
Something, anything. Show that you can get guys in the right position on the field and stop a run every once in a while. I don't know, Bert, but if you've got anything to prove as a coach in this game, it's got to be defensive.
I think we can agree. Like, okay, so like Josh Allen's going to be out there to keep his consecutive starts streak alive and then probably come out, right? Like, so we're going to see a lot of Mitch Trubisky. Right. Like Buffalo, if any of their linemen are beat up, those guys won't play. Like they're going to be very careful with everybody. They're going to give some players a natural bye. So like, what can you really prove defensively against a bunch of backups? I mean, it's almost like it's all downside. You know what I mean? Because if you play great defensively, well, it's because Buffalo didn't play anybody. If you don't play well defensively, oh God, does that look bad?
But that's kind of my point with going out and actually trying to win this game, because that's what one should do, and that's what Fred talked about yesterday about the culture and the reps and all that stuff. What do you prove by beating a Buffalo team that has no interest in winning the game?
So here, I got the draft. You guys know the Jimmy Johnson draft chart, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have the Jimmy Johnson draft chart up now. I don't know how far. Hold on, let me see. I'm going to pull up.
And people still refer to this all these years later.
Teams use it as a reference point, at least. I mean, some teams have it. Some teams have it as like a. Some teams have it as a as kind of a reference point. Some use it actually to make trades.
Wow.
Some teams have they have their analytics department give them a revised.
This is 35 years ago.
It's held up though, and like it does. I'm saying teams have adjusted it, but there is. The old one is actually just still used.
But we have 1 minute. Let's go.
Okay, so really quick. I just looked it up. If all the teams that are right there, if they all lost and the Patriots won, the Patriots would fall at least to fifth, maybe further, right? So the difference on the draft value chart between the first pick, which is worth 3,000 points, and the fifth pick, which is worth 1,700 points, is 1,300. So that the value that you'll be giving up is the 10th pick in the draft.
Right. So you want the first pick in the draft, which is obvious. Yes, you want the first pick in the draft. Right. There's a difference between winning the first pick in the draft and actively tanking a game.
You'd be giving up a top 10 pick value-wise by winning the game on Sunday.
I understand that, but there's losing the game, which you probably will anyway, and wanting to lose the game and actively tanking a game. Right. In a season where there's been nothing but bitching about the performance of the team.
Which is why I think the way you manage it is you treat it like a preseason game where it's like, okay, our stars are going to play a little bit, our frontline guys are going to play a little bit. We're going to pull these guys out at this point, and you try to let it take care of itself naturally.
All right. Well, look back.
And if you need Matt Castle to throw the ball into the stands like the Patriots did that one time, you guys remember that?
Oh.
All right. But whatever. If with this group and this uncertain group of people and this unproven front office and unproven coaching staff, if you feel like you're in the position to deliberately lose games, we'll see where that goes.
I will take that chance.
If I'm Mayo, I don't want anything to do with deliberately losing a game. I don't want it because they'll go. Hey, wait.
For those who don't remember, Bill Belichick did it once.
Okay.
In 2005, at the end of the 2005 season, he lost a game intentionally.
Yeah, and
Castle threw it into the third.
How many Super Bowls had they won before 2005?
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, they won 3 Super Bowls, so it's a different context.
It couldn't be more different.
Right.
There's been no debate about doing that. This is a guy who's been piled on all year for sucking and not knowing what he's doing. This organization sucks, and it's the worst, and we suck. And then going, oh, by the way, go out and actively lose the last game of the season. Right. It makes no sense. And teams just don't not start their starting quarterback who's a kid because they're actively losing. It's ridiculous.
He'll start. He'll get a series. You'll be happy.
I'm not going to care. I'm not going to watch the game, to be honest with you. I'm not watching that game.
What are you doing instead?
Watching other games of significance.
Oh.
Saving myself for Sunday night, which is the
I know.
Which is
the main event.
That's like the NFC Championship.
That's unbelievable. Like that they got that.
Let's talk about that on the other side.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.